and to expand it.
Are you working with the comments that take them in any condition? Now, as far as where the maintenance is going to go, yeah, I have a step with bosses for you. Yeah, they could, over there, I'm just not having 6 months somewhere else. 6 months somewhere else. I'll look into it for sure. We'll let everybody see. That's fair.
Yes. Go ahead and call our December meeting of the Pulaski County School Board to order. I want to thank you all for being here this evening, and as is customary, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Ms. Golden, if you would, please lead us in the pledge, please. Start out with some recognition. Dr. Sears.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will be doing things a little differently this month, and we've asked those who were deserving of recognition to accept the awards at their schools, and Mr. Hurst volunteered his time to go present the certificates for the employee and teacher of the month, and the high school administration got the senior of the month to come in and present her with her award too, so that we could reduce the crowd size here this evening, since we're now operating under a 25-person crowd size limit. But employee of the month, Snowwell Elementary School and Pulaski County Public Schools are pleased to honor Ms. Donna Long as their employee of the month for the 2021 school year. Ms. Long serves as a paraeducator whose primary job is to support the work of special education programs. This is Ms. Long's first year at Snowwell Elementary, and she has worked tirelessly from the moment she arrived. Throughout the day, Ms. Long is seen working with students to ensure that they are successful through all aspects of the day. She has an excellent rapport with all students, and the students enjoy working with her. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Ms. Long has volunteered her time to make masks for faculty, staff, and students, and has taken the time to ensure that each one is the perfect fit for those who are receiving them. Snowwell Elementary is proud to have Ms. Long as part of their school community and appreciate everything that she does for us each and every day. So we're happy to present to you our employee of the month, Mrs. Donna Long. Snowwell Elementary School and Pulaski County Public Schools are pleased to honor Mrs. Kendall Colley as Teacher of the Month for the 2020-21 school year. This is Ms. Colley's third year at Snowwell Elementary School, where she currently serves as a special education teacher. Mrs. Colley does an excellent job managing all aspects of her job and always does so with a smile on her face. Her ability to provide specialized instruction is outstanding both in special education and general education settings. She has an excellent rapport with her students and their families. She never hesitates to lend a helping hand to her colleagues, and has worked hard to promote positivity throughout the building throughout the COVID pandemic. Snowfall Elementary School is very grateful to have Ms. Colley as part of their school community. Congratulations to her on this very well-deserved honor. So we're proud to present our Teacher of the Month, Ms. Kendall Colley. Pulaski County Public Schools and Pulaski County High School are pleased to announce our Senior of the Month for December is Alex Brooke Turner. Alex is the daughter of Jack and Leslie Turner of Pulaski. Alex's nominating teacher spoke of her drive and great initiative. Due to a scheduling conflict earlier in the year, Alex was tasked with changing her class schedule and finding an internship within her chosen career path. This change happened very quickly. Alex took on this responsibility and successfully found an internship that was appropriate and within her chosen career path. Alex has also proven to be a great advocate for herself. When questions during the process arose, she was not afraid to speak up and ask questions to find a solution. Her resilience and strength is the epitome of Cougar pride. During her time at Pulaski County High School, Alex has been on the Cougar cheerleading squad and named the cheer captain of the varsity squad. She also plays on the girls soccer team and was voted captain. Alex is president of the 2020-2021 senior class and a member of the National Honor Society. In her free time, she loves to watch movies and television. Alex is very focused on her schoolwork and plans to attend Virginia Tech upon graduating, majoring in biological sciences. So we're proud to present our Senior of the Month, Alex Turner.
I look forward to a time that we can we can bring all of these recipients back in for just one meeting to recognize them properly. It would really be nice. It would really be nice. But congratulations to our Senior of the Month, our Teacher of the Month, and of course our Employee of the Month. Brings us to item C on our agenda tonight, recognition of citizens. At this time, if anyone would like to come forward and address the board with any concerns or ideas concerning Pulaski County Public Schools, we'd be more than happy to hear from you at this time. Mr. Gallagher?
I'll defer to anybody as those wants to, but if not, we'd love to come forward if not.
That'd be fine, yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joe Guthrie from Dublin, Chairman of the Pulaski County Board of Supervisors. Appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you this evening. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the addition of the discussion and information item on the handing of middle schools over to the county. Certainly is something the county has been looking forward to and has a great interest in. And I'll look forward to hearing Mr. Schultz's report and seeing what he has to say about that. I can tell you from the county's perspective, we have a strong interest in Pulaski Middle School at the moment. We have a developer waiting and ready to go on that to turn that into residential units at market rate apartments. So something that we're looking forward to having new families in the town of Pulaski and Pulaski County and additional students in Pulaski County schools as well. Those are certainly some goals that we all share. So the sooner they get ready on that and we can get it into the county and into the EDA and get them moving on it, they've got some grants that they want to start working on as soon as the county is in possession of it. So we have an interest in that. We don't have a strong lead on Dublin Middle School at the moment. I think Dublin Middle School is in a fabulous location. I think there could be a tremendous number of opportunities for Dublin Middle School for any number of things. There's fabulous recreational facilities there. I think Soldier Field is an excellent facility. We have softball fields there. A lot of ways in which that can be used. Dublin may or may not end up in private hands. It could end up in the hands of a public entity as well. So we don't have any more immediate need on that one. Where there would be opportunities where things would be shifted from Pulaski to Dublin to get Pulaski more ready, that would certainly be something that the county would be interested in. does not need Pulaski Middle School cleaned up, just whatever condition it's in, the developers are ready to take it. Certainly, if you've got anything in it that you like out, it's fine, and whatever you need has been gotten out of it, we can go from there at that point. So just want to get that information to you, and let you mix that in with your thoughts as you continue to report. I'm joined this evening by our Massey representative, Mr. Travis. I'll see if Mr. Travis has any additional comments he'd like to make.
I concur with you that the Pulaski Middle School is in need of roofing development. We have someone in mind for that, and I think it's a good time to get something going. It takes a long time to get through that process, and so being that the work is over, doesn't mean the school can't get anything out of it, and we work together on that process. We need to go ahead and we'll get the developers to be able to start their process.
Yep. But I heard Mr. Travis say work together on it, certainly we'll be happy to work together with you on it.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Travis.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? If not, there will be another public comment section before we get to the end of our meeting. At this time, we'll go to item B on the agenda, approval of minutes. The board earlier received copies of minutes of our previous meeting of November the 10th. At this time, are there any questions or comments regarding the November 10 minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 10th regular meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the November 10th regular meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Crawford?
Ms. Golden? Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Ms. Cox? Yes. Dr. Cash? Yes.
Brings us to the adoption of the agenda. The board earlier received copies of the agenda for this evening's meeting. At this time, are there any corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove that action item 2. Discuss that at a later date.
Okay.
We'll do some work on that and hopefully present it at the January or February meeting. It's not anything urgent.
Okay.
It wouldn't be applicable till later in the spring or early summer.
So,
You went to vacation policy and vacation.
so there's a motion to remove the vacation policy from action item, second action item on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Crawford?
Ms. Golden? Yes. Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Ms. Cox? Yes. Dr. Cash? Yes.
With that complete, are there any other corrections to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, if we could add a student representative update for the information items.
Gotcha. We can do that. I guess we need to do that as a motion.
No, as long as everybody's fine with it, we can add it, but just approve the agenda.
With that, is there a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Is there a second? Mrs. Crawford?
Ms. Golden? Yes. Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Ms. Cox? Yes. Dr. Cash? Yes.
Brings us to the consent agenda, payment of bills as well as personnel changes. The board earlier received copies, of course, of payment of bills, and as well as copies of personnel changes. Are there any questions or comments?
We're going to have some big shoes to fill in the media department at the high school.
It looks like it. I hate to see that. If there's no other comments, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? a second?
Second.
Mrs. Crawford?
Ms. Golden? Yes. Mr. Hurt?
Yes.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Ms. Cox? Yes. Dr. Cash? Yes.
Brings us to information items, and we'll start out with Ms. Bailey. And if she could come up and give us an update, our student rep. Good to see you, Ms. Bailey.
Good to see you too. Good evening. I just thank you for the opportunity to be the student representative this year. Obviously, morale has been a little low this year due to the pandemic. So during SCA meetings, we've been working on ways to just boost morale and make everybody a little happier. So next week, we're starting a Spirit Week to really just like kick off the week before winter break. And following that, we're hoping to have Spirit Days every Friday. This will allow virtual students and in-person students to participate. So, yeah, thank you.
Super. Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Upstairs, I'll turn over the information items to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First information item is the Y Excel program. And I'd ask Ms. Woods to come forward, please.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jessie Woods. Most of you know me, but just a quick introduction. I'm the CEO of the YMCA, but I'm also a product of Pulaski County Schools, a proud graduate of Pulaski County Schools, and I'm really fortunate that both of my kids are actually at Kreiser in the 3rd and 5th grade. So, but today I'm here to talk a little bit about our after-school program and just kind of what we've been doing with regard to our out-of-school time. It was really timely, a national group about after school released information and data just this afternoon, and I have copies of it I can leave for you to look at. And there's actually a lot more data than what's in here, so if you're interested, I'm happy to send it to you. But some pretty surprising numbers that 7.7 million kids don't have somewhere to be after school across the nation. And that for every one child enrolled in after school, another 3 are on the waiting list. I just share that to say how proud I am, as always, to be part of Pulaski, because I think we've done a really good job in a pretty crazy time of making sure that we're doing everything we can to help accommodate parents and make sure kids have a place to be after school. So what we've been doing at the Y, we were really, really fortunate to partner with the school system, with Dr. Sears and the county over the summer to provide some emergency care, which went really well. I can't thank Jess Scholl and Ethelene Sadler and everybody enough for all that they did to make sure we could do that, and they continue to be extremely supportive and helpful. So our YSL program is currently offered, we have a site at the YMCA, but we only had enough space for 12 kids. Last school year, we have for a few years, after school at Kreiser and at PES. This year, there was going to be an absence of after-school programming at Dublin Elementary, Riverlawn, and Snowville as well. So in partnership with the county, we reached out to the principals, and both Riverlawn and Dublin Elementary asked if we would start when school started. So we've been providing after-school care and all-day Wednesday care at the Y, at Kreiser, Riverlawn, Dublin, and PES. And we've had about 85 kids enrolled across all sites. It's been a really interesting last month or so. So that was our schedule when we were 100%. When the school system moved to 50%, we kept our after-school programs going. In addition, we provided all-day care at the YMCA. So my kids are W's. They went on Thursday, Friday. Those kids would have the option to come all day to the Y on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then have after-school on Thursday and Friday at their school site. During our 50%, we tended to have between 18 and 25 kids all day at the Y, and then we kept about our same numbers in our after-school programs. And then we changed to full virtual, we became an all-day school, which has really been an interesting transition at the YMCA. I don't know if you've been up there, but we're all learning to be incredibly creative and adaptable. So during the 100% virtual time, we had between 30 and 40 kids. We housed them in the gym. It's been really actually fortunate. We were able to purchase some of the cafeteria tables from the middle schools. So that's helped us as far as furnishing have gone. The school, again, has just been so helpful. I will email Dr. Sears and have requests for extra things to help. Pulaski Elementary was able to let us borrow some dividers, for example, some plexiglass dividers. So it's been a lovely partnership, and I'm just really excited that we've been able to provide care as much as possible for our families. Part of what we've been doing this year is also working to get licensed at your school sites for our program, which is through the Department of Social Services. There are multiple reasons for that. One is, as a YMCA, we're required to do that if we're going to have an after-school site. But the other benefit is, back to that after-school data, one reason that families don't participate or access after-school is because of the cost. And so the national average for after-school for a week is about $100. We have tried to keep the price as low as possible, and so if you participate in after-school and all-day Wednesday care, it's only $45, which is half the national average plus a full day of care. But still, we know that's challenging for parents, especially if they weren't anticipating the changes with COVID to their schedule. So having our license through DSS will allow DSS subsidies to help parents pay for their after-school care. And so according to our local DSS, that's one of their biggest challenges, is there are very few licensed after-school sites where they can send parents and help pay for that child care. So this week we're getting our virtual licensing visits for Pulaski Elementary and Riverlawn, and then hopefully we'll have Dublin and Chrysler in the new year. Also, just an update, in the last month or so, I've been talking with Ms. Shrewsbury, and we're also going to be opening after school at Snowville. We weren't sure if they were going to have a need, but they do feel like they're going to have a need for our after-school program there as well. Transparency is really important to me, and we're not perfect, and certainly it's a major learning curve for all of us as we kind of learn these new systems. So I try to keep regular communication with our principals. We've done some surveys just to say, how are we doing? Let us know how we can continue to get better. So I say the same to you if you have any questions or concerns or suggestions about things that we can do. This is a really important partnership to me, and we certainly want to do the best that we can for our families in the community. I think that is about all that I had, but I'm certainly open to any questions that you guys might have about our program or about what we've been doing.
Apparently not. Thank you, Liz, for everything you just did.
You're welcome, you're welcome. Thank you guys, it's a great partnership.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is a budget analysis. Our assistant superintendent is not here, but if you'd like to look over that and send him any questions you may have, he is responding to emails fairly quickly.
That's too wrong.
I've got a couple of texts since I've been sitting here.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
So next will be our operations update with Mr. Shull.
All right, I'll be as brief as possible on the operations update. The work order system is at 136 as of December 4th. That is 30-some down from last month. We were running out in the middle of high 160s. So we're getting back on track, although with my update later on the board, you'll understand why we're, probably still going to be a little behind work order-wise. Custodians, we're sir. Yes, sir, it is.
I do have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
based on the last presentation from the YA program. If Wednesdays were supposed to be for full sanitation of the building, but we have kids in the school on Wednesdays, how would you manage to do the full sanitation?
The bulk of our custodians work second shift, so the bulk of the sanitation happens on the second shift. Usually, middle school, high school is 10:30 at night, elementary schools are 9:30 at night when the shift ends. So we're able to clean after everyone leaves, because they're not using the entire building.
I think you operate primarily out of the cafeterias on those days, don't you? And not in the classrooms, so we can get some of the classrooms done during the day too.
And the Y does a very good job of cleaning up after themselves.
So the kids are in the building regardless. The kids are in the building regardless.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As far as the auxiliary gym here, how far along are we with the new floor?
I was in there probably an hour ago. They have from center court all the way to the bleachers nailed in place. They have from center court to the opposite wall laid out. So I fully expect to have it finished, sanded, painted, and usable when we come back for Christmas break.
Good.
That's the hope.
Also, if they're installing signs currently, I don't know if anybody knows that.
The flashers on Route 11, they should be up and operational Thursday.
Great.
That's what I've been told. I've been told a lot.
We've needed that. So it's good to hear. It's good to hear. Any other questions for Mr. Shaw? Thank you.
The next item is just for the board to review. It's our course catalog updates, and there are 2 pages that are included with your packet that spell out specific changes to the course catalog, and that will be just for an informational item. We'll have Ms. Atkinson and Ms. Boland at the next meeting in case you have any questions or anything that you would like to adjust before we approve it. It's a little later than we usually approve the course catalog. We got a later start for this year, so everything's kind of pushed back a little bit, and we'll have more time to enroll the students in the winter and spring since the school year will extend into June this year anyway. The next item is our virtual closing codes, and we reviewed some of this at the last meeting, and it has been sent out to teachers and has been sent to parents. It's basically what we're looking at is when we close for code 0, that would not be a virtual instruction day. There would be no expectation that we do virtual instruction. Those are typically the days when we might have power outages, the roads are too bad for anybody to come in, during blizzards or heavy ice storms, and so we just thought it best not to try to have anybody even manage virtual on those days. On closing days for code 1, we are going to consider those as asynchronous virtual days, and the expectations for the teachers are that they will get assignments sent out to students that morning and then be available in the afternoon to offer assistance or answer questions through office hours on asynchronous days, and they can do that from home. On closing code 2, those would be synchronous virtual days, and that is we did 2 days of asynchronous the week of Thanksgiving, and last week we did all synchronous just so we could work out some of the bugs and how we make that happen. But it is actual instruction where students log on for a period of time for each class, and they can interact with the teacher. Doesn't mean that the teacher has to be on there for an hour and a half with them. The teacher may just speak for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then put the students in, let them get off and get into small groups to work on the assignment and then submit it to them later. But there is interaction for each class between the students and the teachers. And for the students who cannot participate in synchronous instruction, everything will be available for them after 3:30 that day, so they can still log on, complete the assignments, watch the videos of any information that's provided by the teacher. And is still a work in progress, but we feel much better about where we are now than where we were a month ago in trying to put all this together. And these are just the schedules for what the instruction will be on synchronous days, when students can log on and interact with the teachers for each subject. 2-hour delay, this has changed from what we initially sent out, and it really hadn't entered the conversation until Sunday evening when we were looking at the possibility of getting some weather yesterday morning. And we started looking at the hours of instruction. And secondary, if they came in on a 2-hour delay, would only get, I think it's a little less than 3 hours of instruction. So we have added that if we have to have a 2-hour delay, it'll be a synchronous instructional day for secondary, because they actually get more instructional hours in on a synchronous day than they would on a 2-hour delay. And we're just barely, I mean, the way our schedule and everything's going this year, we're built on a minimum number of hourly requirements. And so pretty much anything we miss, we have to try to make up somewhere along the way.
Dr. Sears?
Yes.
I did have one elementary teacher who needed some clarification. Ms. Rash, I emailed Ms. Rash and she gave it to me, but I just want to offer that tonight, that in the elementary schools, when they have the reading and the math and the social studies and science back-to-back, 10 to 12:30, there was some concern that the students would not be able to last for 2.5 hours of instruction. But I said, I think they can take a break if they need to. And I know Ms. Rash, you said you were going to clarify that with the principal. So there's no expectation that elementary students sit for 2.5 hours without going to the potty.
No.
Okay.
No, ideally it would be handled just like the class. They could do stretch breaks and give them 15 minutes for a morning recess. I mean, those things can be worked in there and still counted as instruction time.
Okay. Just a point of clarification
Yeah,
for people
okay.
who would look at that and say, oh, not at all.
I would just like to say, I told you so, because last month, I told you we needed to make that virtual, an action item. By the end of that week, we were building a lot happening on these virtual codes.
Yes, you are correct. It hit us much more quickly than we thought.
One question on all of the virtual activities. We've talked in years past a lot about the bullying that goes on buses, schools, after school, whatever. I'm sure it's happening. And how are we making sure that we can control it or be on top of that?
During virtual instruction, it may be happening, but I don't think it's happening as frequently as it does in face-to-face. And administrators are dealing with discipline referrals for fully virtual students or students when they are on virtual learning for a temporary amount of time. Teachers can still submit discipline referrals, and administrators will still sign consequences and work with the students through those issues. Okay, the next item on the agenda, we've had a number of conversations and email exchanges and text exchanges and input from the community, and there really is a push to try to get back to 100% attendance as quickly and as safely as possible. And our issue, and I can't stress this enough because I think I probably didn't do a good job of communicating it in the beginning. When we went back from 100% attendance to 50% attendance, it was not because we were having issues of COVID outbreaks and increasing numbers. It was because we could not sufficiently staff our schools with the substitutes that we had. And we were having, for an example, here at Pulaski County Middle School, there was one day when 8 teachers were going to be out and they could only get one substitute to come in. And we were having so many teachers having to give up their planning period, not just, occasionally, but almost on a daily basis to help cover for the teachers who were out because they had to quarantine or were out because they had a medical appointment. I mean, there are a number of reasons that we had people out. So the step back was never about about concerns over the spread of COVID in the school. It was just our ability to staff the schools. And then the step back to all virtual was mainly just precautionary because of the holidays and the expected increase in numbers. It was not because we were fearful that things weren't being done correctly in our school. In fact, we believe that the schools are the safest place for kids to be. And I don't have any data to back this up. It's just an observation, but it seems like we have more reports of students who are all virtual testing positive than we have of students who are coming to school every day testing positive. So I think the fact that we have, we apply the mitigation strategies, we clean our schools, we have the students wash their hands before and after touching the common items. I mean, we have all the pieces in place to have kids safely in school, and our teachers are doing an excellent job of making sure that the students are following those strategies. And if we can work out the staffing piece of it, there's really no reason why we couldn't be back at 100%. And Dr. Bissell fully supports our effort to try to get everything back to 100% because she sees the mental health aspect of students not being in school and the increasing rates of depression and increasing rates of teen suicide throughout the country, and it's all concerning too. And these are things that we have to take into consideration. So if we can get the staffing issue taken care of, we stand a good chance of being able to get everyone back to 100% and hopefully be able to stay there. But we can't do that if we don't somehow have more people on the substitute list. So what I put here are just some suggestions of things that we can do to hopefully increase our number of subs. And first thing is to plead and beg for people to apply and become subs. And if folks can do one day a week, if you work another job but you're off every Tuesday and you're willing to come in and sub on Tuesdays, we'll put you through the training and we can use you on Tuesdays. So, try to launch a campaign to just draw more people in to it. Also, we have some former students and college students who've expressed an interest, but they're not yet 21. So, through conversations, we thought, well, we probably want to keep the 21 if they're going to sub at the high school. But if we have a 20-year-old who wants to sub at the middle or the elementary, they will not have went to school with those kids, so it might be possible to lower the age of substitutes for the middle and elementary schools to 20, and that may draw a few more people in who possibly are working toward a career in education anyway, and we can get a little bit of substitute experience. Trying to just get a better control of absences, and that may not be the best way to term that, but ask that personal leave requests made at least 15 days in advance. Doesn't mean that they can't be made with less than 15 days, but it means we might not be able to approve it if we don't have, typically we approve any personal leave request no matter what. And, but maybe just putting that stipulation in there, if it's less than 15 days, we might not be able to approve it if we can't find a substitute. And asking employees to spread out recurring medical appointments to alternate days. So, a lot of people like to schedule everything on Fridays, and that hurts us on Fridays. And Mr. Benson had asked for some data earlier in the school year, and Fridays are definitely the day when we have the highest need for subs, followed pretty closely by Mondays. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, the numbers are much less. So if we could just encourage people to kind of spread those out where it's not the same, if they have an appointment once a month, let's try to make it Monday one month, Tuesday the next month, and so that we're not piling up everything on Mondays and Fridays. and asking anyone who's taking sick leave on 2 or more Mondays or Fridays during the second semester may have to provide information. I think typically the practice is that it's 2 or more consecutive days that we can ask for documentation. We typically don't ask for that, and I'm not sure if we would in this case, but just having the potential to ask for it if we think someone might be abusing sick leave, take off to get 3-day weekends every month, then we might want to ask for documentation. And then we're looking at trying to create some incentives too. Most of the issues with substitute coverage was occurring at the secondary level, and a lot of teachers were having to give up their planning periods, like I said earlier, to cover for teachers who couldn't be there for whatever reason. So we thought maybe and some teachers don't mind doing it at all, and some, that's the time that they were interact with the virtual kids and do other things. So it's really cutting into our ability to do for teachers to plan and give students feedback on assignments and also interact with virtual students. But if some feel comfortable doing that and are willing to give up to 2 planning periods a week, we wouldn't expect them to give up at the secondary level all 4 currently or depending on what their schedule is. But if they're willing to give up 2 planning periods a week, we could offer them a stipend, kind of like we do for teachers who teach an extra period during the semester anyway. We give a stipend, and this would really equate to a quarter stipend or a half stipend with $12.50 for each planning period that they give up. And elementary teachers, it's more difficult to do that at the elementary level because the planning periods are so much shorter and not necessarily at the same time each day. So what we thought with elementary teachers who might be asked to cover a classroom, they're planning to allow them to bank that time through just tracking it on a sheet of their own, and then they can take it off on Wednesdays or on a work day at some point this year. And also looking at our support personnel, if they can be freed up to substitute and are willing to go cover a class. It could be a paraprofessional, it could be a bookkeeper. If they're comfortable going in and covering the class for a day, offering them an additional stipend of $50 to go in that day and cover that class. And number 4, I have mixed feelings about. We discussed this as just a way to encourage people to maybe schedule appointments for later in the afternoon, after 3:30, and hopefully not use a full day of sick leave for a doctor's appointment. But it also could be encouraging for people to come in when they're actually sick and need to take a sick leave day, because you get to May and you think you're going to get that $250 stipend at the end of the year. You might not take the sick leave day when you should. So I'm kind of have mixed feelings about that. I think it would be nice to offer something, but we also don't want to do it in a way that discourages people from taking off when they need to take off. And look at increasing the pay rate for substitutes by $15 per day. And on the final part of what we're looking at doing is creating a standby list. And this will include administrators, counselors, media specialists, pretty much anybody with a teaching license or a professional license in the school division. We would ask them to keep their schedule flexible enough 1 day a week to go cover one class or maybe cover for the whole day. In the event that we could not find a sub anywhere else, we would go through the priority of trying to first secure a regular sub, then trying to use teachers who are getting compensated for their planning to cover, and then trying to use the support personnel who would get the extra $50. But if we go through those 3 steps and can't cover it, then we would call upon these folks and not the same people every week. Ideally, the way I see it working, it would probably be operate out of our office when they needed to call for the standby list, and they would just contact Brenda. So if it's, we'll just say Jess and me and Grace are on the list for that day, and Jess and Grace have already done a day, then it would fall to me, and I would be the one expected to do it. You know, we wouldn't want anybody to do the second day until everybody had done the first day, if we blocked that day off each week, if that makes sense. And it would just be, that would be our last ditch effort, when nothing else worked. When you have a day like they have here where, you know, 7 teachers couldn't be covered, then we would have, you know, a pool of people to call in and keep us from having to shut down the school for that day. These are just suggestions, you know, and they really haven't even been vetted with the full leadership team. We've talked about some of them, and I've had individual conversations with Chris and other people about others, and just put this list together. And if there's anything the board feels strongly that we shouldn't do, you know, I'm more than happy to remove it from the list or rethink what we're looking at doing.
I have thought about this a lot. Is this too loud? And I've got people who are emailing me that we are in a pandemic and we can't go back to school at all. And I've got people who are emailing me and saying we've got to have the kids back at 100%. And we're kind of at a point where we need to say we're going to either try to go back or we're just going to throw in the towel on this year. And I don't think we can do that. I think this is fine. I think the kids need to be in school. I think that this is extraordinary circumstances, and we've got to do this in order to keep the school staffed. I would like to request that administrators and counselors be at the very bottom of the standby list, if at all possible.
If they're at the bottom, then the people at the top will get called first, but they would be called, you know, the next week then. I mean, it's so, you know,
Okay, so everybody's going to rotate.
everybody rotates.
Everybody's going to rotate.
And I don't think it would be a situation where everybody's getting called in that day every week. You know, I think, you know, it might be one day a month you get called out. It might be a little more some months if we're having more absences. You might go 2 months without getting called in.
Okay. And I do realize I did have one person who messaged me and said that she's concerned we're going to be pulling in every stranger from the street to substitute. But we won't do that. They'll go through a background check, right? And the same training and everything. So I feel confident we'll be okay there. I'm a little concerned about the language. Just as an English teacher, in incentives number 1, it reads like receive a stipend of $12.50 for the semester for each planning period they give up. It reads to me like they're going to get $12.50 for each planning period.
For each, like if they give up their planning period on Tuesday for the semester,
Right.
then that would be $12.50. If they
Okay,
give it up on
okay,
Friday
right.
for the semester,
Just
then that would be another $12.50.
Just clarifying.
Yeah,
Clarifying
yeah,
that,
we
because
can
I
do
read
that.
that and I said, ooh, that's a great deal.
Yeah. I give up every planning period.
No kidding.
I think you would need to limit it to.
Yeah, we still wanted to make sure that they had, you know, time to do some of the other things that we were discussing, and that's why we did, you know, preferably one, if we had a lot of teachers who were interested in it, just asking everyone to give up one, but if not, we may need to ask some to give up 2 per week.
Yes, I think we either do this or we throw in the towel. I mean, really, this has kept me up at night,
And
worrying about doing this.
I forgot to cover the last one, but yeah, look for partnerships, and I talked with the county administrator, and he seemed excited and thought they could contribute a few employees who could keep their schedule flexible enough to be on our standby list as well. So when we get those names, we'll try to work out a schedule and add them to the list that we've already been putting together.
And have you put me on that sub list yet?
Yeah, but you're on it 4 days a week.
I'm on 4 days a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
First call, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
I love children. I can do it. But you cannot put me at the high school because it will embarrass my daughter. Middle school's better, and send me the training and I'll do it. And I've got background checks out the lawsuit. So. I I just went through a very rigorous one for a while, so. Yeah, I love children.
I really think if we can get this off the ground and working, I think we could probably be at 100% the whole second semester for 4 days a week. If we approach the need to shut down on a school-by-school basis. You know, we kind of acted as a school division when maybe the problem was just, you know, looking back, we probably should have stayed at 100% at the elementary when we first encountered the substitute problem, because the elementary wasn't the issue. The secondary was, you know, the middle and high school, that's where we were having a sub problem, but we didn't really break it down by school. So if we have a large number of employees at any one school that maybe have to quarantine, and we don't have the substitutes to go in and support that for 2 weeks, then we might have to put that school on all virtual for 2 weeks, but keep everybody else open. It may just require a different thinking of how to deal with a large number of employees quarantining or a possible outbreak at any of our schools.
How many counselors do we have at the elementary schools?
We have one per elementary.
Is that Snow? Or do we have a full one at Snow?
She's there 4 days a week at Snowville and 1 day a week at Pulaski Elementary.
Okay. Okay, good.
I would like to take counselors off that list. And I'm not so sure that I wouldn't want to take administrators at the elementary school off that list as well.
Okay, if you start taking people off, that means everybody who's on it's probably going to have to go in every week. And when we
I
start
understand that, but I just feel like we need, under the circumstances, we need the counselors in the elementary schools for the little guys.
Yeah.
And I hate to see administrators out of the elementary school. I know you have assistants, but maybe let the assistant principals be on the list, but keep the principals off the list.
Would the administrators be subbing in their own schools?
It would be wherever you were needed, keeping your schedule flexible enough. You know, we talked about trying to let people pick what they wanted, but I think that just requires too much coordination. And then, like I said, this would be the last ditch effort. When there's no other way to cover it, we go to the standby list and start calling in people. And we can, I mean, we can exclude people, but that does leave those others who are on the list. That means we're going to have to cover more. So you're going to have other people, you know, instead of once a month, you might be in there every other week or every week if we. My own thinking was, because we've had conversation about this too, you can justify reasons for keeping everybody off that list. And I don't know that it works as well if we're making exemptions. You know, I'm on the list. Everybody with a teaching license or a professional license I have on the list currently. And that includes Title I teachers. That includes pretty much everybody who doesn't have a regular classroom.
That does include Title I teachers?
It does include Title I teachers.
Because there was a concern about that as well, since they're paid a little differently. Are they going to get a stipend if they use their plan? They're not going to do a whole day, are they?
Well, it just depends on what's needed. You know, quite often it's just a period, a class period that needs to be covered because somebody has to leave a half day early but occasionally it could be a full day. And yeah, we would have to figure out the pay side of it. You know, but currently they're getting pulled to help sub in their own schools as is when there aren't enough subs to cover.
I just wouldn't want to be in trouble with using Title I paid with federal dollars to, you know, I just want to be real careful with that.
Dr. Shiv, with some of our neighboring school districts, divisions, many of them right now are going all virtual, of course, right at the moment. What are you hearing from the superintendents as the reasoning? Is it lack of teachers in the schools, faculty? Is that the primary reason right now?
Yeah, that the Giles announced today they're going all virtual, and that's what they're saying, that, you know, just it's becoming impossible to cover for all the people who are quarantined. And Janet and Mary will be going over ours, you know, and we have concerns about that ourselves. Our numbers grow greatly each day of the number of people in quarantine, and right now, we're making it work without, even having a standby list, but, you know, we're getting close to the breaking point, this week with the note, you know, trying to get things covered. So, I mean, it's a difficult situation for everyone, but, you know, and a lot of the counties fall into a different health district. Dr. Bissell, you know, I think does a really good job of seeing the whole picture and the mental health aspect of kids not being in school and the fact that we're not really experiencing outbreaks in our schools, outbreaks in the community because people aren't following the mitigation strategies in the schools. They're probably the safest public places that anyone can be right now because there is heavy enforcement of mitigation strategies.
But we have had no student-to-student, infection, basically, or transmission.
No,
That we've been made aware of.
That's correct. To date, we've had no transmission within the schools that we've been made aware of. We've had people who bring it into the schools, but in all instances, they were exposed outside of the school building.
So all the issues are in the adults who work for the schools, not in schools, because we're keeping them safe. Schools are clean and cleaned constantly, and just doing a very good job with that. It's when the people are going out and not taking the precautions that they need to take, and then carrying it back in.
Yes.
What we're seeing are a lot of family exposure. Small groups of about 5 people. Everybody thinks you're safe if you're in a small group, but technically, no more than 2 people is safe. I think the update we're seeing now is a result of the Thanksgiving holiday. And so it's a lot of family members that came to the night during the Thanksgiving holiday, and now family members are coming down with it.
But I'm just going to say this publicly for everybody to hear me. You are responsible for each other. We are all responsible for each other, and we need to take precautions. And if that means staying at home, if it means staying away from other people, that's exactly what we need to do. We cannot continue to spread this and kill each other. And
I agree with you 100%, Ms. Cox.
it bothers me that we think we can act one way coming into the school, we, mask up and everything, clean everything, and go leave here and act a different way. Personally, this is the largest group that I am ever in. I don't get around people, because I don't want y'all killing me.
It's going to be very challenging for us.
Be responsible. Whoever is hearing this, virtually or otherwise, you need to be responsible.
Ms. Baker, how many employees do we currently have on?
We have 33 on quarantine, 12 are teachers, and 21 answers staff as of today.
Dr. Stewart, I appreciate the update. I appreciate what we're trying to do to get kids back in school face to face. It's obvious that's where they need to be. When we look at their results with virtual learning versus face to face, there's no comparison. So it's obvious that's where kids need to be. And I appreciate this update because I think, and I'm thankful that the media is here. I hope families in Pulaski County are listening to this because it's so often, of course, here lately I've tried to stay on Facebook as much as possible. But so often folks think we just close schools just to close schools. Because there might be a little bit more of an outbreak in the area and so forth. But that's not necessarily the case. So I certainly appreciate the update, and I hope that folks understand the challenges. And I look at all this, and I think of the time that went into this, and how we're doing absolutely everything we can as a school system to keep kids in school. We're doing absolutely everything we can. Pulaski County kids have probably been in the school more than any of our surrounding neighbors, more than any of our surrounding neighbors. So Dr. Sears, I appreciate the work that you are doing, the leadership team is doing, appreciate the work that our faculty and staff is doing. And while I agree with Ms. Cox, and, you know, that Lord, we all need to be more responsible as trying to control behaviors is an impossible thing, and that's something that I just don't think is we will certainly be able to do, but it certainly needs to. We all need to hear that, because you know we have folks around us that have we feel like have done a really good job, and yet we know people that right within our own school system right now tonight that have become sick, and you would have never thought that. You would have never thought that. So again, thank you, Dr. Sears, and for the work that you've done on this, as well as Lord have mercy, the continued efforts to keep our kids in school.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you know, Pulaski County has had more face-to-face instruction for all students than any county in the New River Health District catchment area. You know, nobody else, you know, we were 100% for elementary, I think, for 6 weeks, 7 weeks now with this one, and at secondary for 5 weeks, and nobody else has offered that in the New River Valley area. You know, you've got Grayson County and Bristol in Region 7 who were offering something similar, but they are in a different health district area.
Just what is the current sub rate? Yeah, no, I mean, how much do they get paid? Let's get down to brass tacks here. I don't want any money for what I volunteer to do. That's volunteer, but just here, let's do a little marketing. How much is it?
I'm gonna have to send that to you more, I don't have that memorized. Sorry.
That's okay.
I continue to pay them tomorrow.
That's all right, but still, a little marketing. If you need money to pay off your Christmas bills come January, this, and you are a decent human, this is a great opportunity for you. Why are you laughing, Jesse? This is a great,
I believe it's $75, and so we go up to 90, and just, we don't need to do that yet, I'll send out the calculation on that.
and the children are delightful.
We'll do a little more work on this, and we'll take a look at some of the job classifications and see, you know, what we would expect on the standby list, and present it again, because some of this will require action from the board, changing the pay scales and doing those stipends. And, you know, my thinking is that we plan to begin this with the second semester, which will begin around the end, sometime at the end of January. I don't remember the exact date, so we'll bring the formal plan for an action item at the January board meeting.
If you need it more quickly, though, can we do a called meeting? Because it sounds like you are in dire straits right now.
Yeah, we can do the call meeting, or you can approve the stipend and the pay increase tonight, but we don't know the exact amount that it'll be. Just, I guess the motion would just have to be to increase all substitute pay rates by $15 a day, all substitute teaching pay rates.
I mean, if we're in that bad shape, we might ought to go ahead and give you some.
I've already marked in my presentation next, I'll just send a text and see if I can get that information for us.
Okay.
So, Dr. Sears, on the incentives part, number 4, you stated that you were a little bit hesitant about that.
Yes, I would like somehow to be able to encourage teachers to not take sick leave. You know, if it's a dental appointment that can be made at 4 o'clock, not take a whole day of sick leave while all this is going on. But I don't want to encourage people to come in while they're sick, and I'm afraid that this could have that effect as well.
See if I have that information. So the pay range is between 75 and 100 calls per day, so the rate varies based on if you're a licensed teacher or if you're recruiting.
So 20-year-old would be getting 75.
Yes.
Let me get 95.
Aye.
90, sorry. That's English.
Right down to the 75.
Okay. So they get 95.
Let's put her on. Or we could take action on this tonight. You know, this doesn't spell out what the standby list is, just that we would have a standby list. So we could still do some work, additional work on that, and just send it out with a weekly update.
I mean,
once we have
I
that
think
finalized.
it's crazy to wait until January if we need people right now.
I have no issue with making it an action.
Okay. Is there a motion to move this to an action item?
So,
Is there a second? Mr. Carter?
Ms. Golden? Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
yes,
Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Dr. Cash?
Yes.
Thank you.
and next we have the quarantine process and CDC updates, and Ms. Mary Hall and Ms. Jana Beckman.
Thank you, Dr. Seer. So good evening, members of the school board. As Dr. Seer said, we're going to give you a quick update on the employee quarantine process and the CDC guidelines. As I stated earlier, we have 33 employees currently on quarantine. Our current quarantine process goes like this: when an employee is symptomatic or exposed to COVID.
Could you step toward the
Yes,
microphone so
okay.
folks who are watching
Yes.
on YouTube can hear?
So as far as the process goes, when an employee is symptomatic or exposed to COVID, they are responsible for notifying the COVID email address. This email address is available in May 24/7. Since August, there has been over 1,300 correspondences. Once the email is received, the employee is asked to complete a health questionnaire and provide documentation from their healthcare provider and or the health department. The HR director and nursing coordinator review the information and make a determination on quarantine status based on the Virginia Department of Health guidelines. If additional guidance is needed, a consultation call is made with Dr. Bissell or the Virginia Department of Health nursing staff. The employee is then notified of the decision and provided further guidance on return to work requirements. While on quarantine, a full-time employee is eligible for a maximum of 10 paid sick days under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It is important to note that this expanded FMLA benefit will expire on December 31st if not renewed by the federal government. If the employee is able to work and their position is considered essential, telework options are considered. Prior to December 1st, the guidance provided by the CDC included 10 days of isolation for a positive test result, 14 days of quarantine for direct exposure. A direct exposure was typically a positive test, no mask or direct contact of more than 15 minutes with an exposed individual, typically a family member in the home. However, on December the 2nd, the CDC modified the quarantine guidelines. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hall now to give us an update on those new guidelines.
Good evening. As I said, yesterday we received confirmation of these new guidelines from Dr. Lane, the superintendent of schools, and also from the Virginia Department of Health. So what they're recommending is sort of confusing, but originally it was 14 days for quarantine. They're still recommended that that's probably the safest option, but they're giving us some alternatives now to that option. And those are that quarantine can end after day 10 without testing and if no symptoms have developed. Or quarantine can end after day 7 if a virtual test, like the PCR, is performed on or after day 5, is negative, and no symptoms have developed. So that's basically the guidelines. And so Dr. Bissell recommended, we talked with her, she felt like this was completely safe for us to go by these guidelines. And how this may affect us is it may allow staff who are determined to have close felt like it was necessary to go with what the new recommended guidelines are. We know that there will probably be some individual circumstances that we have to consider on an individual basis, but I think we just need to let all our staff know these are going to be our guidelines and our expectations for quarantine.
Do you have any questions for us?
The 33 that's currently on quarantine,
I'm sorry.
the 33 that's currently on quarantine, that's all.
That's okay.
The 33 that's on quarantine right now are in quarantine. Are their dates varying for when they return, or some of them at the end, and they just kind of stagger?
It is, and now with the Thanksgiving holiday, it seems like this group of 33 is kind of grouped together. So before we were seeing more of a staggered return date, but like I said, with everybody coming out of the holidays, this group should all get back at the same time.
So they should be back by next week, really?
14th through the 17th.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Any other
Just
questions?
to quantify what these ladies are dealing with, it is hundreds of emails a day coming through with questions about, and they're doing a great job staying on top of it, communicating with everyone. Is it possible to respond immediately, but typically by the end of the day or before the next morning, folks have a response, but it is unreal, the volume of emails and responses, and each one's different. You know, each person's bringing a different scenario to the table, trying to find out if they should quarantine or not. And thankfully, a lot don't have to. They don't need to quarantine because they didn't meet whatever the possibility of exposure was. But it has been proven to be a huge undertaking. I don't think anybody could have foreseen what all it would involve, just trying to man the COVID response line for this fall.
And just want to say the nurses have done a great job trying to manage the COVID cases for our students too. Is that trying to talk with parents, help some of the parents and guardians understand what close contact is and when they need to keep their kids home, what they need to do. But as of today, we only have one positive student, so I think that's remarkable.
Jen, you mentioned 1,300 at the beginning of your presentation. That's 1,300 since August. So those are 1,300 responses that you had to give.
Pretty much. It's been very busy, so it's, back and forth, employees provided information and want to know, what they need to do. So it's been fairly busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like it's been real busy. Thank you for everything you guys are doing so much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Scholl will give us an update on Dublin Middle School and Pulaski Middle School, where we are with both of those buildings.
I'd just like to real quick say that I appreciate HR and everybody with what they're doing. I deal with them daily on COVID stuff, so, and I'm just a small section of what they have to deal with, so y'all wouldn't believe how much they have to do, so, thank you. Real quick, I just want to go briefly, just a quick synopsis, and then we'll talk about a few things about what's going on with the middle schools. I have some photos in the presentation to kind of give everybody an idea of where we stand at each of the schools. Obviously, we didn't get started on clearing the schools out as soon as we would have liked, mainly because where we're sitting right now took a little more time than we thought it was going to take, and a little more effort. We started auctions on GovDeals. GovDeals is the public auction site to which you can sell public surplus. We started auctions on October 23rd. To date, we have run a total of 154 auctions. We started with the kitchen equipment, mainly because kitchen equipment is your best seller and your most valuable item. We have run of the 154 auctions we've run to date, 111 of those auctions were kitchen equipment. And we have made, School Nutrition has made $27,537 to date. We have mostly run through the kitchen equipment, so I do not expect, and for example, that's a picture of the DMS kitchen. There's nothing left. So that's just to give you kind of what's going on in the building, what they look like. We run 43 other auctions, which consist mostly of school furniture. Of those 43 other auctions, we've only made $1,460. Typically, school furniture doesn't go for much. For example, you have a lot of student desks, say 40 to 50 desks, they'll go for $10. So we're not talking about a lot of money with those. We probably have, if we want to lot out everything that's left in those buildings, if we want to lot it out and sell it, we probably have another 300 auctions to go before we make it through everything that's there. And if you would, you can see these pictures were taken this morning. You can see all the furniture that's left in those buildings. We have managed to get the second floors completely clean. Completely clean. For example, there's the Dublin Middle School Library. As you can see, there's nothing left in there. We've gotten it downstairs, we've got it sorted, and we're going to try and sell it. So if that's the way we want to progress, and as Mr. Guthrie said earlier tonight, we're willing to take the buildings with the stuff in it, but there's some other issues that I'll get to at the end that are still at play that aren't just the furniture. So if we want to keep running auctions and list everything that's in there, it's 300 auctions to go. We have a couple big ticket items left, but not many. We have one mobile unit left at Dublin Middle School that would be considered a big ticket item. I mean, we might get $2,000 out of it, we might not. Sometimes those are kind of a gamble. Sometimes you're just willing to let somebody take it if they'll just move it. It just depends on the market at the time. And then the ag equipment. We have some very old ag equipment, some three-phase ag equipment that we can't use anywhere else that sometimes sells for decent money. Those are about the only big ticket items we got left. We're mostly down to just daily school furniture, filing cabinets, desk chairs, teacher desks, student desks, that kind of thing. And obviously we've given the schools that we have already the opportunity to look at this furniture. And something that struck me the other day, I'll just say it in this presentation, is I couldn't believe that we went to school in those buildings last year after being in this building. So just seeing it in that light and seeing some of the furniture we were using on a day-to-day basis and just looking at those buildings, I told Matt Jackson, the guy I work with every day, I was like, oh, man, I can't believe we were in here last year. But anyway, that's the side note. We're looking at March, if we keep running auctions, okay, to get the furniture out. Okay, that still leaves us with two questions to answer. Mr. Guthrie answered one of them tonight, and that question was, what do we do with the stuff that doesn't sell? Do we then bring in maintenance crews and trash people and clean them out and polish the building? It sounds like that's not something they're after, so we could leave it and just move on. Then the other question becomes, what do we do with maintenance? Okay, I don't know how many of you know this, but maintenance operates out of the main building of Pulaski Middle School right now. We operate out of the basement. We've been operating out of the basement of Pulaski Middle since we left Renfro. And I don't know which direction we're moving. We've made some, Mr. Hurst is aware we've made some ideas, kicked around some ideas, but I don't really have a direction to go, where to go with those folks. So I know that they're after Pulaski Middle first, and that's the one that I have the biggest, what to do situation. So even if we get all this furniture out and get it moved, and the people doing that, I want to praise them a little bit right now. I want to praise Matt Jackson specifically. He's done a great job. He's taken the bull by the horns on this particular project and really pushed to get these buildings cleaned out. I'd like to thank Dr. Sears for giving us a virtual week after Thanksgiving. That helped immensely. Because I don't have the staff to put, that's not our focus. These old buildings are not our focus. Our focus is, getting branch done here and keeping our schools that have students in them daily clean and operational. So we're just kind of doing this on the side when we have time. So please keep that in mind. I mean, we're just not up there working every day at these old buildings, because it's just not, it's not our priority daily, but we're trying. So, in general, that's kind of where we stand. The big question out there is, where do we move maintenance? Which direction do we move forward? You know, I don't know how much the other board members know about our conversations, but do we move in the direction of putting money into the old ag shops and try to move into those? Do we pursue a new maintenance shop and try to move into it? That, you know, the faster we have a direction, the faster we can move in that direction.
Well,
So,
sorry.
mhm.
I'll just, in my opinion, I don't want to see us go back into, an area for maintenance that we lease from any quantity and then get kicked out of it again.
No, ma'am, that was not, that's not in any of the options that I have presented.
That would not be my choice at all.
Yes, ma'am, we agree with that.
You're spending a lot of time is money, auctioning off equipment. You could be selling instead of.
I was going to bring this up at the beginning, but I thought maybe it would make me look bad. It seems like that even with the crisis with subbing, Dr. Sears made it a point to let everyone know that he purposely left me off of the list.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how I feel about that. If we're in that bad of shape and he really didn't want me around kids, I don't know.
We'll just close.
As a grandparent of one of the students, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm cut out to handle a contractor, not a child.
So my point there is, it seems like we have to pick a point pretty soon.
Well, I mean,
It's
that's-
to pick a point
Yeah.
and just get rid of the stuff. If
Yeah.
you put it in one big lot with a minimum bid, people, you know, where they can recycle this stuff, or we recycle it. We haul it off to wherever they take these metal cabinets.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, recycling prices, it wouldn't be worth us if we just leave it and walk away from it. The decision would be, okay, we're done, and we just leave what's there and walk away.
Somebody's got to dispose of it.
Well, you know, they said they'd take them with the stuff in them, so
Right.
let Joe have it.
I can confirm that, we said that.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there would be a point where we would finally decide, and the reason I gave you guys the dollar figures earlier when I was talking about the auctions, I wanted you to understand that, you know, while we made $27,537 off the kitchen equipment, that's good money, okay? For the amount of time that we put into it, that's good money for Ethleen's program and her department. But they're big ticket items that people want. I mean, you're talking mixers going for $4,000. I mean, you know, it's worth our time to take a picture of that. You know, two people have pretty much like Jana, this has become their full-time job. I mean, listening is big. So at some point we would have to make the decision, okay, we're not going to make enough money on what's left. We'll just quit and move forward.
Right.
But the big question then becomes, we need a direction to move. You know, we need to know where we're going, so then we can move in that direction. We could,
Is your major question tonight, where do we put maintenance?
that's the biggest question from the proposal, sure enough. Where do,
What do you want?
I want to build a 16,000 square foot facility on the site at Pulaski County High School with a loading dock, a climate controlled storage area, and bays for the maintenance shelter. And we
What
could,
else do you want?
that's pretty much,
What our options are to.
I can go through that, yeah.
Okay.
I have,
And I'm just kidding, I have no idea how much that's.
$500,000.
But it's going to be a few $100,000 to get the ag shops, because they're on the same heating system and electrical system as the schools, and so we're going to have to survey them, bring in a whole new heating system, and so to make them operational, it's going to be a couple $100,000 as well.
The questions, the options we have available to us right now, okay? We can keep the PMS Tech Ed building, it's out in the backyard, okay? We can keep it, turn it into our maintenance shop. But we're talking $160,000 out of pocket right now to get it ready, okay? We have to, that's $160,000 to, that includes asbestos abatement, utility separations from the main building, demolition of derelict buildings, grading, fencing, reconfigure interior and technology requirements. All the utilities for those Tech Ed buildings come out of the main buildings through trenches. So nothing's powered, water, sewer, or heat on their own. So there's going to have to be some substantial utility work that go into those buildings to make them usable as independent buildings from the main building. If you sever them from the main building, it's going to take some money.
This building that you're speaking of, Jess, is at Pulaski Mill, the one at Pulaski Mill.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you're saying $160,000 on that building alone?
Right now, yes. And it's also, the building has a roof that is terribly old, and it's going to need a new roof within 5 years at a cost of an estimated cost of $20 grand. So you're looking at $160,000 out of pocket right now, and probably within the next 5 years, another $20,000 to put into that building. That's just to keep Pulaski Middle School. If we only kept Pulaski Middle School's ag department, then we were still going to need to pay rent at 109, which we're currently paying at a rate of $1,300 a month to the town of Dublin to keep the 109 warehouse that we had to also rent. Our other option to keep Dublin Middle School Tech Ed building, and just to give you guys the square footage of the PMS Tech Ed building is 4,404 square feet. Okay. And let me just give you guys a current, we're operating currently, our current operations department operates out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 individual old locations within the county, throughout the county. We don't have a centralized location for operations anywhere. We're operating out of 8 facilities all over the county.
How many of those did we pay rent on?
1.
Yeah.
2 of them are partial, Dublin Middle School and Pulaski Middle School, which is, while we're having this discussion, 2 of them are buildings that we're trying to vacate. I could go through each of those if you'd like.
So you would move maintenance into the building there in Pulaski?
Yes, I would move maintenance into the building in Pulaski. We could move maintenance into the Tech Ed building at Pulaski, out of the basement of Pulaski Middle School. We're going to have to survey off a fairly sizable chunk of that backyard for a parking lot and a fenced-in area, so, you know, we're going to have to take a slice off of that to keep it. I would move maintenance into there, but if we only kept Pulaski Middle School Tech Ed shop, then we're still going to have to keep the storage facility at 109 in Dublin. We could keep the Dublin Middle School Tech Ed building as well, which is a square footage of 7,633 square feet. Its initial cost to separate, because for whatever reason, it's mainly because I believe Dublin was a little newer and it's a little bigger and it had a little more electrical needs. It already has its own electrical supply. So we're looking at $120,000 out of pocket to get it ready, with an estimate of a new roof on that building within 5 years at $40,000. If we kept both Tech Ed buildings, it is possible that we could eliminate 109. But again, if we keep that Tech Ed building in Dublin, I'm going to have to take a pretty big piece of that parking lot. And I don't know how that would affect future marketing of that particular property. But we'd have to slice off a pretty big piece of that parking lot to be able to bring trucks in and turn it around and still get in and out of it and make it usable. Part of the reason we built this building, the logistics of Dublin Middle School don't work for buses, doesn't work for parent pickup, doesn't work for trucks. I mean, it's just a really small, tight spot. So I'd have to slice out a pretty big piece of that parking lot to keep it.
I'm guessing that the marketability of both middle schools is going to decrease if you have to do what you're talking about.
I can't, I'm not a marketing guy, but I would think so, yes. All right, so you're looking at, you know, if we kept both of them, $260,000 to put into those two old buildings and keep them just to make them usable for us.
Plus another 60,000 for roofs in the next 5 years.
But I'm thinking the 260 includes those, but yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then, that's why I approached, Mr. Hurst with the idea of constructing instead of putting that kind of money into these old buildings, and we're still segmented across the county, instead of being as efficient and operating as efficiently as we possibly can, to build a maintenance facility at the largest flagship of the county, which is Pulaski County High School. And I hope Chris Staff is listening, because I said Pulaski County High School. Trust me, he got mad at me a few times when I first started. So to build a maintenance facility at our flagship building and be within 3 miles of our second largest school in the county. And we would all be right there. And everything would be right there.
On property we already own.
On a property we already own, and we would own the building.
What would be the turnaround time on that bid?
I say a year, a year and a half tops. And if that's the case, if we know we have somewhere to go, and we know we have a direction to move, we could temporarily operate, I told Chris Stafford, if we go with this building, or if we find a way to make this building a reality, I'll take 2 old school buses, and we'll operate out of 2 old school buses for a year and a half if we have to. I mean, we'll do whatever we have to, if we have an end game in sight.
I don't think there's a bigger rush on dealing as is, so we could potentially.
We could potentially temporarily operate out of Dublin Middle School if necessary.
So I thought early on in the conversations about this school, that when we discussed what would happen with the other 2 schools, and this was discussed with the county, I thought there were thoughts kicked around about whatever sale price for those 2 buildings came to the school system. Seems to me like that could offset some of the money needed now to build your building.
I don't think they're anticipating getting much from selling them. I think it's the value comes in getting them repurposed and put back on the tax roll.
Jeff, what about energy cost savings and things like that for the other buildings that we would be vacating?
Yeah,
Roughly is?
I don't know how we would heat the ag buildings yet. We haven't made a decision on whether we would try to set a boiler in there and keep operating them on a heat loop, or if we would try to set individual units, but absolutely, a modern building built to our specifications would be much more energy efficient. And
Do you know roughly what we're spending each month on the buildings that we have?
they're lumped in with the overall middle school bills, so I don't have them separated out.
Okay.
The ag buildings are just lumped into the utilities for the whole school.
So that's a huge cost savings
Yes.
that we potentially have as well.
It's possible, yeah.
What size building did you say?
It's a 16,000 square foot building.
Would it be a metal building? Or
Yes, sir.
would it be a block building? Or
Metal,
metal building?
slab on grade. I sketched it out. I drew it on a piece of paper. That's very nice. It's a big
One
piece.
other question, and I bring this up every time we discuss this, just because I want to make sure we don't lose sight of this. We still have our gas tanks on those 2 properties, right?
Yes, ma'am. We've considered the tanks, what we would do in that case. We're already keeping the old bus garage, which is over the hill from Pulaski Middle School. We're keeping that little complex anyway, and it has the gas tank on it and a diesel tank. So we would still own that in the Pulaski side of the county, which would be fine. If we lost the tank at Dublin Middle School, we would be fine. We have a diesel tank. It's a diesel only at Dublin Middle School currently. We have a diesel tank at the high school out back, and we have a lot of our transportation, our transportation office is back there now. We park back there now. That is a high use tank. There's also the diesel tank at the county garage on that end of the county if we need it and we're able to use it. So we're okay with tanks. If we lose Dublin Middle School completely, we're fine with gas. We consider that. You know, worst case scenario gas wise, if we lost them all, we can go to cards. It's not the end of the world to go to cards. We could just start buying gas from, you know, Wilco or, for example, a school system I worked in the past, we all had a credit card issued in our name, and we purchased gas at a local filling station. We had an agreement with them. So there are ways around it, to get around gas if we need to.
What about bus parking?
The only thing that we would lose for bus parking is what to do with the buses at Dublin Middle School. It's 6 buses that park there on a daily basis. When we had to leave the other building that we were in, and we came back and took over the old bus garage as a maintenance department, we lost a bunch of bus parking there. We moved bus parking to Crowder Elementary School. It's worked out really well. We may look at moving some to Dublin Elementary School and using Dublin Elementary School or even River Lawn as that end of the county's parking if necessary. I think we can work around that aspect as well.
Wouldn't we have some bus parking at the new building at Pulaski High School property?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We already have a huge cage at the high school. I already fussed.
We just can't put them in bus.
I could probably get them in there, but it's just inconvenient for the drivers that drive in the Dublin area and the River Lawn area to come all the way up to the high school to get them. As hard as it is to get substitutes, it's really hard to get drivers too, so I try to work with them, get the bus pretty close to them if I can. We could work something out for parking.
You know, we're setting that building right now that the county decided to spend $47 million on and eliminate 2 old middle schools that we could have consolidated at Dublin Middle School, and we had a price tag of about $36 million to do a renovation at Dublin Middle School. And about 2/3 majority of the county said it's time to build a new middle school. So you know, in my opinion, you have to have a $36 million price tag there to do a true renovation at Dublin versus spending $47 million to have a state-of-the-art facility that is nice in middle school as there is in all of this part of the state. We're scattered out all over the county, and if we renovate these 2 buildings, we're still going to be scattered out, and we're going to spend a price tag of $300,000 to $350,000. So, in my opinion, why wouldn't we spend the $500,000 to have, if we can do that, why wouldn't we do that and have a new facility there that will and not only the $300,000 that we're spending, but of course, I mean, we're giving up that $15,000 a year of rent we're paying right now as well, so we save that. Maybe we could get a couple $100 out of those 2 schools, Mr. Guthrie, and to help us out a little bit. But in my opinion, that's the route I would love to see us go. I know the county needs to get that school in their possession. Would like to get that school in their possession as soon as possible. So I would like to move forward as quickly as we can to do that.
I agree with you 100%. I think a new building is the only way to go. I hate to see us put that kind of money in an older building, and even though you fix the roof for $60,000 or whatever it was, $40,000, whatever you said, down the road you're going to have to do the same thing. I mean, it just, the fixes just don't last long. So I think we'd be much better off to do somehow just to build a new building.
I second that.
I question where you're going to put it at the high school, because the high school's getting somewhat cluttered now.
Yes, sir.
But
Just so you guys are aware, he took the liberty of drawing you a picture. I did. Actually, it's,
I know, and I hate to see them.
I spoke to county, or not the county GIS, but Teresa Porter, who's not here tonight, thank her. Her husband so graciously helped us out with some GIS. But if you'll notice, the sand softball court that's behind Pulaski County High School. If you're driving up the road around the outfield of the softball going to the football practice field, there's a stand of pine trees.
Right.
We plan on putting it, see my big yellow blob in the pine trees? Our intention is to put it there.
So you would not have to mess with the wooded area beside the pine trees?
That's correct. The trail area?
Yes.
We wouldn't get into the trail area. Provided that, I'll be perfectly honest too, we haven't done any site surveys or anything. This is all preliminary. That is a hand-drawn, it's to scale, but that's a hand-drawn drawing by me. So this is just preliminary. This is something that came up pretty quick. I have sought engineering for that. I've got the quote to start it.
You know where we can get the money?
To build it.
Seems to me like you've done everything.
Well, most of my ideas would probably get us in trouble. Now, I've been to Chris Stafford and Mr. Hurst, and I really all I'm doing, Ms. Cox, is present the facts. This is what we have. These are our options, and this is what it's going to cost us. I mean,
I think, we either do this or we have to do the other.
yes,
And it's a matter of what can the county do to help expedite the process is, because the other will require probably more time to get the surveys done and get the buildings cut off and, the power
Yes.
and all that cut off.
you're probably looking at a year and a half either way.
Should we set up a meeting with our building committee and you all?
I'll go ahead and speak on behalf of the administrator and say we'd be happy to have a meeting. We'll put it together. I'll have Mr. Sweet communicate with Dr. Sears. I'll communicate with Mr. Hurst. And,
It sounds like we're gonna have to come up with about 300,000 no matter what, but if the county can somehow kick in the rest, we could get started on this and look at relocating everyone for the next year to Dublin Middle.
let's look at our schedules and see when people are available, and it's a high priority for the county. We'll certainly prioritize that.
I'll get with John tomorrow.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, work out a time.
And to Ms. Cox's point, the county intends that the school, Pulaski will probably sold it very nominal.
Yeah.
Charge, and then hand it to a developer with a performance agreement, that they would be required to turn it into what they promised they would do, or would have to pay.
Yeah.
And Ms. Cox, I don't think the county would have any objection if there were, funds raised on the sale of school, that would become school property. I don't think there'd be any objection. I just don't know if there'd be any sale, value. And it's hard to say with EMS whether that would even be sold. It may remain public property.
We probably got more on for business.
Yeah, we had to make sure it goes for $4,500. No lie.
You better sell that ag equipment, Jess, real quick.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know what Chris does with that money, so. Goes into something called a general fund.
Right. So we'll set up a meeting with our building committee and the county and look at what options we have and try to chart a path. The center. Yeah, we'll try to make that happen later this week or early next week at the latest. Any other questions for Mr. Shaw?
I think that's smart.
Yes, thank you.
Well,
Maybe you could teach drafting.
That's your stuff, John.
I did teach for 6 months.
That's not a lie. That's a great sign.
Time to give up, Supervisor. And I didn't see about surrender. Calendar items upstairs.
We've got
attendance. And that was discussed as just being a temporary measure to get the school year started, because at that time there were no viable childcare options in the community, and it was going to be impossible to get the school year going if teachers or any employee was taking advantage of the Families First Leave, where if childcare is an issue, they can take off for 10 weeks at 2/3 pay. So we made the decision, as did almost all school divisions in our region, to allow the students of the elementary age students and teachers to go to school every day. We have since had a request to expand the list of those who can go every day. And so it warrants having the conversation again that first, if we have to go back to 50%, and I'm very hopeful that we don't at the elementary level, but if we do, who do we want to define as an essential employee and allow their kids to come in 4 days a week? And I put here the definition of essential employees as was defined by the state back in May for the purpose of emergency child care. That's really the only official definition I could find. Each state has their own, but this was Virginia's definition for who would qualify as an essential employee. And of course, educators are on the list, but just about everybody's on that list. There are very few careers that really aren't essential in some way, shape, or form. And our concern on the school side of things was the equity issue. If we are bringing in the children of basically middle class, the working class, 4 days a week, but denying 4 days of attendance to our students with disabilities, to our students of color, to the students of low SES. I mean, it's a huge equity issue if that's a long-term way of doing business for a school system. And so I guess what I'm just asking is for some guidance. Do we want to broaden our definition of essential employees to include all of these other groups, or do we want to just keep it at school employees and deal with the equity issues if they come up? And hopefully it wouldn't. Hopefully we don't have to go back to 50%. But if they do, there would be legitimate cases against us from people who believe that their students were denied an equitable access to education that was provided to a certain class of students. Or do we just take the stance that it's 50% for everyone?
I think we have to concentrate on getting everybody back into school as much as possible. But I have a real issue in making exceptions that is going to disparage basically those in poverty. They're already at a huge risk. And they're probably the ones who need to be in school the most. And we have, it's not on our agenda, but we have numbers that show how students are doing, and they're struggling. Students are struggling right now. I understand everybody. I would be one of those employees if I had children that you would need to allow them to come to school. Because I am an essential employee as well. But I don't see expanding it. There's no good answer.
No,
There's absolutely no good answer to this. But we cannot favor those who have above those who do not.
But now this is a moot point if we are at 100%.
Yes, if we're at 100%, even if we stay at 50% of secondary for a while, the secondary kids just go 50% because we just applied this to the elementary age children. And we have created a process for some students with a disability to come in 4 days a week. It goes through their IEP team, and I think we have, very well, was the last count, around 70 students.
Yes, sir, and we also have a lot of our EL population coming in, and 504 by 504 teams.
Okay. So probably in the neighborhood of about 100 students who didn't previously qualify are now eligible to come in 4 days a week if we were to go back to 50% because they went through the process to establish that there's a need and the transportation has been worked out for them and some of the details that we didn't have worked out at the beginning of the year when we started this way have since been worked out and the plan is in place. But we do still have the low SES students who, as Ms. Cox said, are really struggling with the lack of food at home and our food services is doing a great job of getting out meals, but we know we're not getting every family. We know there are families who have transportation issues and can't make it into the pickup site during times that we're open. So it is a huge concern, and there are no good solutions. The only good solution is to stay at 100%.
We have no idea how many children this affects.
My thinking is that if we were going to expand the exceptions to all people on this list, it's probably going to be 75% of our students, I think, would qualify for 4 days a week. But it's probably going to be the low SES, the students who have been raised by grandparents who are living on Social Security, the students who may be living in income subsidized housing, students of parents who are unemployed. Those are going to be the ones that wouldn't qualify, and they are going to be the ones that need it. They all need it. All the students need to be in school, and they need access to the mental health services that we provide and food services that we provide and just the basic structure and the safety. But it would still be, keeping out a segment of our student population who would benefit by coming in 4 days a week. And if we don't,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, personally, I think if we can include everybody, then we just leave it the way it is. And this is my thought process, because, as Becky said, we know we're not gonna make everybody happy anyway, but, I don't see the fairness in it.
Yeah.
And I'm included on that list, my family's on, but I just don't think if we can do it for everybody, we should do it.
Yeah, I agree. My daughter would be one of the ones too on 4 days, but we've just got to try to stay at 100%.
And that might be the solution, just if school has to back off, that school just goes virtual. And then everyone's working through the virtual program and there's not, at least the equity issue is not any a problem. And change our mindset as to, which we talked about earlier, instead of operating as a division, look at each school, and when one school becomes an issue, we just make that school all virtual for a period of time and not go back to 50% elementary.
That sounds like the best plan to me.
And it all comes back to what Ms. Cox said earlier, personal responsibility. Take care of each other and yourself.
And it would be very difficult to remove everybody from the list, including teachers, because then who's going to teach the kids if the teachers can't come in? There are no easy answers here, but from what I'm hearing, everyone would prefer that we just try to make school by school decisions instead of across the board decisions and try that and see if we can get through the next few months. I really do believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If we can just hang on for another 6 to 8 weeks when the the vaccine starts getting distributed to more and more people, and I think we're going to be in the mask, and I think we're going to have a 4-day school week for the rest of this school year, and possibly to start the next school year. But I do think we're going to see a steady decline of numbers and see things flatlining and some return to normalcy before the end of this school year. And if we can get through the next few weeks, I think that'll start to become more evident to everyone through what we have going on.
This kind of leads into a different part of this discussion, though, is we really need to ramp up how we are reaching out to all those virtual students who are not here, who are struggling. You know, they get so far behind, they're going to give up.
Yeah.
We can't let that happen. We are about education. We are not about everything else that may go on with the school, like the sports and everything, which isn't going on. We have to make sure that these children are educated. Their lives depend upon it.
I can attest, we have got some great teachers. Jason's teacher, he's got one teacher in particular, the Zoom meeting, she is in contact every day, she's texting, she's emailing, she's following up. If kids are on Zoom meetings, they get extra credit points for staying through it and actually participating, in the meetings and things. And I actually stepped through one of the Zoom meetings the other day for a teacher class, and it was amazing. If all the teachers did that, I feel like, we would be very successful. But they are, they're doing a great job.
They are, and it's getting visibly better every week. I mean, we've asked teachers to do the impossible this year, and they're still having to do the impossible. Secondary teachers right now, they really have 3 different types of classes going on. They have the 50% who are present teaching them, teaching the 50% who aren't present on those days as well as their virtual sections that they have going on who never come in and they never see face to face. So they're, all the same subject and all trying to be paced at the same rate to get through the material. And it's virtually impossible to do what they are doing on a daily basis. I mean, it's amazing that we're doing as well as we are. And as Ms. Cox said, we have a lot of kids who are struggling, and we've identified the failure rate. I mean, the students who are failing core subject classes and classes where they need to graduate, and administrators are in the process now of contacting those students and facilitating conversations with those teachers to try to work out a plan so that they're not. What we don't want is, and I expressed this today to Ms. Bowman, we don't want 50% of our kids, which is about where we're at, thinking they're going to be retained because it's mathematically impossible for them to pass a core subject class this year. We just can't have that, or we're going to have class sizes next year of 40 kids in every class. We've got to give them an avenue to dig out the hole that they're in and understand that we're all trying to figure this out. There are no experts. Nobody's very good at it. We have some who are really good at it, and then we have some who are just trying to learn and figure out the technology side of things. And there was no time really to prep for this. There was definitely no time to provide professional development because we didn't get access to Virtual Virginia until the week the teachers returned. So and then they were expected to build classes with about a 3-hour orientation on how to use the Virtual Virginia and the Canvas platform, and that's it. And they've been running with it ever since then. And we've been trying to fill in gaps here and there, but it's really the burden is falling onto the teachers to try to make this work, and they've stepped up admirably to make it work. And we have really good things going on, and I think we're going to be ahead when all of this is said and done. We're going to be behind where we would have been under normal circumstances, but I think we're going to be ahead of most of the school divisions in our region with what we've been able to do this year. And we're probably not going to have the same depth of achievement gaps that other divisions are going to be experiencing, but we're going to have pretty deep achievement gaps to help bridge when we finally do get things
a nationwide issue too.
Yes.
CBS did a news story on it yesterday morning, and they interviewed people superintendents all over the nation, and it's absolutely nationwide. And we need to appreciate the fact that our teachers have really stepped up, and they are, by all accounts, exhausted.
One of the other issues which we all know that we have is access to Wi-Fi in all of our county, which there are huge gaps in our county for Wi-Fi or for cell service. But even where it is, sometimes we think, we don't necessarily think about that. I work at home, and I'm the only one using the Wi-Fi at any given time in my house. So I didn't think about what it would be like if there were 4 other people there on a Chromebook trying to learn. And one of my constituents in my area pointed out that not only she was in an area where Wi-Fi is very low, and they pay a lot more for it than we do right here in this area. It's not always unlimited. But then she was having, as a parent, to help 4 kids in her house while they were trying to use the Wi-Fi all at the same time. It was nearly impossible, and even if there needed to be 4 of her to help them, but there also needed to be a lot stronger Wi-Fi signal in that area.
Yeah.
This is something that as a school board position to fix this, but we are way too far behind on that, and this points it out. But as a school board, we need to know too and realize the struggles that these people are having. There's in another area, a person pointed out to me last night, and as he put it, they come into the metropolitan area and steal Wi-Fi so that they can get it done. Because they're in an area that there is no option. And he was, of course, joking about that, but it's something we don't think about.
It's a real issue. When people have to get in the car and drive to another part of the county so that they can do their homework. That's crazy.
We have been issuing Wi-Fi devices. How many have we issued out, Josh?
177.
Those won't work in Little Creek and they won't work in Hiawassee.
They work in parts of. We've
Parts of
noticed,
Hiawassee.
yes, and the county's actually put up a mobile hotspot in Little Creek at French Chapel. The county's put up a hotspot at the Draper Park, at Randolph, and at the Robinson Tract Community Center on top of that. And I'm sure you guys have heard that they are looking at constructing a couple of towers in the Hiawassee Snowville areas as well to address some of the need.
Have we thought about offering some more PD or I know when I say PD, a lot of teachers go, I do myself. But can we ask them what they need, the ones who are still kind of uncertain about what they're doing or hesitant? Can we just say, what do you need?
We can, but we eliminated all the PD days from the calendar. We had to change everything around, so it was, we could try to make things available, but it would probably be something that would have to be done on their own time, because we do not. Mary, do we have any PD days for the rest of this
We
year?
have a half day when we, at the end of the semester. I will say Virtual Virginia offers food pools of free PD, and every time that I get that, I send that out to principals to please disseminate to teachers. Whether they're taking advantage of it or not, I don't know, but it's there.
Also, our 5 ITRTs are available for one-on-one training, and they're in the buildings. We have one person dedicated to the high school now, one person dedicated to PCMS now, and 3 that cover the 5 elementary schools.
So if you're struggling with the technology, contact one of the ITRPs.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And our parents are doing the same thing. I mean, they call me, I send them to the hotline. ITRTs are spot on getting to them.
Okay.
I think that people that have done that, follow that route, have been pretty satisfied.
We put a lot of the PD days at the beginning of the school year as
Yeah.
work days,
Yeah.
so that we wouldn't have to go longer in June.
Well, and I'll go to any school anytime and sit down with someone who's struggling with Canvas. Because that's what I use. Anytime. And I'm in a good place to do it right now. My grades are almost done.
Well, we've got you subbing though.
They put me to work. The house has become very small since my husband started working at home. I love him, but,
Do you know how to drive a bus?
huh?
Can you drive a
Shoot.
bus?
I think I could get my CDL.
That's the empty test.
Class starts next Saturday.
So if you're gonna do all this other stuff, you might as well drive a bus.
Just sign me up, man.
More challenges than there are solutions.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions.
Oh, do we?
Answers are elusive.
One of the things that the governor's school always did, which I kind of thought was a good idea, was they made themselves available on a Saturday, and they had it planned in their calendar, every 9 weeks or so. Can't remember how many times a year that they did that, but, and they're probably not doing it right now since they're probably all virtual, but those Saturdays allow students to come in and ask for additional help.
They are doing it, but they're doing it virtually on Saturdays now, and that's really what we set up for Wednesday afternoons with virtual Wednesdays. The teachers have office hours and are available for tutoring and answering questions on Wednesdays right now.
And we do have Title I teachers who are going to be working extra on final to deliver some evening services to our virtual students as well.
That's good, thank you.
I mean, it is impressive how everybody is willing to step up and do whatever's asked to try to help out students. You know, unfortunately, it's just taken us so long to identify what we need and who needs it, because all the regular communication channels are non-existent this year. So, you know, it's taken us a little longer to get a handle on who's struggling and who's not. But once we have and they've been identified and we know what they need to do to get back on track, everyone seems to be willing to do whatever it takes to help the kids and you know, through from offering evening tutoring sessions to inviting students in on Wednesdays and working in small groups. I mean, there are a lot of good things going on. It's just taken us a little while to get to that point.
And it's temporary, right? All this
Yes.
is temporary. Won't be forever.
Calendar items.
Yes, calendar items, December 15th, BSBA Beyond Meet and Conference. Okay. About collective bargaining, which does become a reality this year. Midterms coming up, winter break, public hearing for the budget will be on January 12th, budget work session the 26th, budget work session February 16th, and March 23rd. Hopefully we will have a budget proposal presented to the school board. And our middle school boys and girls basketball team has their first game tomorrow evening in Floyd County. Unfortunately, none of you can attend.
three schools in the River Valley Plain right now. You want to guess who they are? Everyone else is canceled, so we'll be playing Floyd County 6 times, I think. But you are welcome to attend that. School board members are considered essential administrators at for home events, so you're welcome to attend any of the home games that we have. They fall under the exemption. School board members and the school administrators are exempted under the 25 guideline limit for attendees.
When is the homework?
It is next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. The boys play at 5 and the girls at 6:30.
Are their families gonna get to attend and watch them play?
Probably not every game, but they're trying to work out a system where families get to come in. I think the high school's working it out to where one parent can come per game. And here, I'm not sure what Tony is working out. He's trying to work out something that will, ensure that the parents get in. And they've done a really good job of getting sponsors here. Former board member, Mr. Barber, has agreed to sponsor the final 2 middle school basketball games. So at least the school's not going to lose money on paying the officials and the expenses that it takes to operate a game. They've had a lot of the businesses in the community stepped up and agreed to sponsor a game this year. And so thankfully that will keep the school's athletic budgets from going into a hole, because I don't think any of the schools are going to be charging admission if you only let 25 people in. And you would pay more to have a ticket taker in dealing with that than what you're going to bring in for the game.
Any other questions on the calendar items? Brings us to action items. We'll start out with the new action item we moved from information tonight, and it's the Pulaski County Public Schools COVID response guidelines plan to address the shortage of substitutes. We've already had a fair amount of conversation about that. Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the Pulaski County Public Schools COVID response guidelines plan to address the shortage of substitutes?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Crawford?
Ms. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Dr. Cash?
Yes.
Brings us to the food service policy update for school nutrition. Dr. Sears, who?
Yes, the policy was presented by Ms. Sadler at the last board meeting, and we now recommend approval.
The board's had the opportunity to review the policy. If there's any questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the policy update?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the food services policy update.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Crawford?
Ms. Golden? Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Dr. Cash?
Yes.
Brings us to the Region Virtual Academy resolution. Dr. Sears?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we discussed at the last meeting, and Ms. Cox was selected to serve on the board for the Region 7 Virtual Academy. This is a copy of the resolution and the agreement that we become part of that academy, that we agree to the terms here. What it requires up front is a $10,000 startup fee to get a virtual school administrator for the region to start working on things like the schedule. And the latest proposal has school divisions being lumped together in smaller groups. I think we would be in a group with Giles and Radford, and I can't remember if there was another one. Like, do you remember Ms. Cox? Maybe it'd be us, Giles and Radford, where they were estimating around 500 students, 500 virtual students. They'll put you in a sub-region for that, and work out a virtual schedule, because with the introduction of the full virtual academy this year, the Pulaski County Virtual Academy, and other school divisions doing that statewide. There is a lot of interest in keeping that option available to students because we seem to be doing well with the virtual program. We don't expect the number to be what it was this year. We expect a lot of the virtual students to come back next year, but we do anticipate that we'll still have a number of them at each grade level who want to remain virtual, and this would give them the option to do that and would allow our kids to participate with, if they attend full virtual classes that are put on by the virtual academy. I think we would pay the tuition similar to what we pay at the governor's school, but they would still remain a student at Pulaski County, with Pulaski County Public Schools. They still participate in any of our extra or co-curricular activities. They still get counted on our ADM. We are just paying the tuition fee for them to take the classes virtually. And I think it's around $3,500 a year per student, which is in line with what we pay for the government school students anyway.
But then this is something that would possibly keep the student from completely leaving the system.
Yes.
Homeschool, in which the parents would have to purchase an expensive curriculum.
Yes.
Keeps them connected to our system, our school division. So that's a plus. I mean, right now, if it were in place and we could move out those who are very comfortable with virtual, then, it would free up some capacity within our system. It's not here at this point, but if it were, it certainly could do that. And we do know that while we talk about the struggles that some have with virtual, we do have some parents and some students who are very capable of handling it and prefer that and are not really going to want to come back to the way things used to be. It can possibly allow them to take a class that they wouldn't otherwise get to take within just our system or their own system, another locality.
I think it's a win,
Yes,
frankly.
I think it's well worth staying in the game for the startup money and seeing how it evolves and it sounds like the way they were proposing to do it at first, I was ready just to pull us from it because it was 2 students per grade level maximum, and I didn't see the benefit of that. But after they went back and rethought it and looked at it from a sub-region standpoint and trying to group schools divisions that were in proximity to each other together to help coordinate this, it seems like a much better plan, and we should be able to get many more students into it.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the Region Virtual Academy resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the the Region Virtual Academy resolution, sorry.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Crawford?
Ms. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Ms. Cox? Yes. Dr. Cash?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the fiscal agent was left blank because nobody has agreed to volunteer for that. And when Brenda filled in Pulaski County yesterday, she put Pulaski County down as the fiscal agent, and within 10 seconds, I had a phone call from Chris Stafford wanting to know what we were doing to him.
I saw that and I thought, who is going to touch that?
I didn't even think Brenda had time to put it in yet, and Chris was already calling and wanting to know what were we thinking.
All right, we'll move on. That brings us to future agenda items requested by the board. At this time, does the board have any requests?
Survive.
I think we're going to be That moves us on to recognition of citizens, if anyone would like to address the board this time.
Good evening. I'm Brittany Williams. I'm a Title I teacher at Pulaski Elementary. As it's been mentioned several times this evening, it's been a very hard year. I think you used the word exhausted a little while ago, and
That's the word many of the teachers are using.
yeah.
Exhausted.
So this evening, before leaving school, a lot of my colleagues came to me with questions and concerns, and I guess I volunteered as tribute to come up and share some of those. And most of those are in reference to the issue of filling the place of teachers when they're out without subs. And so in one part of that document, there was a part labeled like, you even said you didn't necessarily like the title, or the label of like kind of keeping an eye on how we're using sick days and things like that. And I think it's been mentioned several times this evening, and it's been mentioned several times within the media over the past year, that our students are struggling and mental health issues are skyrocketing. But I also think it's worth mentioning that that is happening with our educators and our employees as well, not just our students. And the reason I bring that up is because in one part it talks about trying to scatter our sick days, or if an employee uses a sick day on 2 Mondays within an entire semester, documentation may be, asked for. And I want to caution that simply because mental health already has such a negative stigma attached to it. And if we have employees that are reaching a place in this academic school year in which they're to the point where they have to reach out for help for mental and emotional issues, I don't think saying we may at some point have to get documentation to prove that you're going to your appointments, I think that would almost turn employees away from that. No one wants to share with their boss that they're struggling mentally or emotionally. And so I think as far as that goes, I caution you as far as saying, it may get to the point where we ask for documentation to prove that you're using your sick days for actual appointments. I don't want to turn adults away from the help that they need simply because they're afraid of the stigma that might be tied to that. So that was the first thing on my list. Another thing that several people just within my building, but I'm sure that anyone who reads it is going to have the same concern, was when it came to the stipend offered, or the potential stipend that could be offered to secondary teachers. I understand that secondary educators have a much larger planning time than elementary educators, and so to give up that chunk of time seems a lot larger than to give up an elementary section of the day, our planning time. However, I think the comparison of an opportunity of making $2,500 extra dollars versus a few hours that you can take off of a Wednesday, that's a big difference. Especially when the willingness across the board, you have elementary educators who are just as willing to give up their planning to help out their school community as you have secondary educators, their willingness to do the same thing. And so I think to say secondary should get this money for giving up their planning time, but elementary should just get some time that they can take off on a Wednesday, which is also now very much an instructional day, which means even if I decided to take 3 hours that I have built up and take it off on a Wednesday, I still have to plan instruction for that day. For the 1 to 3 part of the day where you're there offering assistance to your kiddos who need it, I would have to get coverage for that time. So it's really not an equal opportunity. And I think too, it gives off a message that you're not meaning to give off. I think as an elementary educator, when I read through that, the one thing that kept popping up in my head is when you have your elementary employees read this, what are you expecting that they feel when they read this? Because it comes off as we are less important or we are less valuable. And I don't think that's what you mean, which is why I'm bringing it up now. But that is how it comes across. Sorry, I wrote it all on my phone because I knew I would forget. I also, and this was mentioned too about we didn't have the actual numbers tonight, but it was brought up that a lot of our kiddos are failing core subjects right now. And so I know we've been working to set like guidelines on how low a grade can be. And we just made that across the board, I think no lower than a 59, right? But I also think that we should take into account the pacing. Because I feel like, especially, and of course I'm an elementary-minded person, and at the elementary realm, we are laying the foundations for all future learning. And this year we're doing it I feel like we're on a moving dock. that's never really still. And so I think if we can somehow loosen up the pacing, loosen up the content that is expected to be taught within an academic year. Because doing so, what we're doing right now, and I think this is a big reason our kids are failing, not just because they're not face-to-face with us all the time, but I think it's because we are moving so quick and they have no time to truly master these concepts and these skills. So I think if we could somehow look at the pacing, and I know it's tied to Virtual Virginia, but I think if we could look at it and kind of reshape it, maybe, I don't want to say throw out some things, but think about what are our main focuses, what are the main things we should do? Because I think allowing our kids 4 weeks on a concept, if that's what it takes for them to master it, is a lot better than having them get 20% mastery on this skill before moving to 15% mastery on this one. And I kind of see it like a puzzle. I'd rather them get this entire puzzle done first before moving on to 5 different puzzles. Because what's going to happen, and I think we all know this, and it is a national thing, all of our kids are going to be behind come next year. I don't think many of them are going to be on grade level or where we would like them to be. However, if we can spend the time needed on our concepts before we move to the next one, I think there's less of that, first, less failure, because we're giving them the time to prove what they can do, right? Not just giving them scores because they've run out of time to actually build that skill. But I also think there's less of a gap, less of an achievement gap if we do that. Also, and I think this is one of the biggest ones, and it goes back to mental health, but the mental health of our students. We all know that we would rather have our students with us 100% of the time. 1, I just love them. 2, I just love teaching, right? But of course, their mental health, being at school is such a valuable thing to them, but I think what makes school such a safe place is the environment that we create for them and the relationships that they build. And I bring that up because of the standby sub list. We at Pulaski Elementary have 1.5 counselors, I guess if you want to count it that way. Ms. Edwards is with us 1 day a week, and we have 400 kids. All FPS counselors have been removed, so we don't have that this year as a resource. And while we do have, in our DCS, we have like 1 this year, where we used to have 2. And so counseling services in general are very, 1, important, but also they're not like in abundance this year. And so I really ask that you remove elementary counselors from that list. And as someone who falls in the category of other employees with teaching license, if that means I have to be on the list every week for my counselor to be in my school every day of the week, then I volunteered for that. Because I think the last thing we want is for a child to ask to see or to speak with their counselor, and we're unable to give them that resource because she's out subbing somewhere, and then the next thing you know, they've made a life-changing or a life-ending decision. I don't think any of us would be able to live with that. And so I personally, Brittany Williams, will be on the list every week if that's what it takes to ensure that Morgan Dowdy stays in our school all 4 days a week. That's all I have. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you for everything tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Everybody else is a school board employee or the president. Because that's not funny. And a student. So, appreciate you all being here. If there's no one else that would like to address the board this evening, we will adjourn. Thank you all for coming.